Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vrinda Kumari Devi Dasi from Baltimore. I welcome you all for today's session by His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your association. So Maharaj will be enlightening us with the continuation of verses, Srimad Bhagavatam 199. So Maharaj, I request you to please take over the call. I will share my screen.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter is entitled The Passing of Grandfather Krishna. This is in the first canto, 9th chapter, verse number 9. Kanmate kan mahabhagan vipalabhya prasthitamaha pujayam asadharmo yo desakala vibhagavit. Vishnadev, who was the best among the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there. They knew perfectly well all the religious principles according to time and place. Expert religionists know perfectly well how to adjust religious principles in terms of time and place. All the great acharyas, religious preachers, and reformers of the world executed the mission by adjusting religious principles in terms of time and place. There are different climates and situations in different parts of the world, and one has to discharge his duty to preach the message of the Lord. He must be expert in adjusting things in terms of the time and place. So here we find something interesting. There's 2 things that are mentioned in the Shastra. One is called principles and one is called details. Principles can never be changed by anyone. The details of the religious principles, according to time, place, and circumstance, are adjusted in order to facilitate the transmission of transcendental knowledge and the practice of devotional service. So I would ask all of you out there who are listening to name at least one of the adjustments that His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada made. Anyone would like to respond to that question?
Chanting of the 16 rounds instead of 64.
Very good. Yeah. 64 rounds were actually done by the Gaudiya monk in India under the guidance of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. But I have to qualify your answer in relationship to the understanding. For those who were out preaching and were not staying in the ashram, they were allowed to chant less than 64 rounds. But those who were staying in the ashram, doing services in the ashram, they had to chant 64 rounds. So just for the sake of qualifying that, but Prabhupada knew that this would be, and he did, he tried to induced the devotees to chant 64 rounds at the beginning, but it was challenged directly by one senior devotee, and Prabhupada gradually adjusted down to 16 and because he could also understand, it's not that he was defeated, he could understand that there was a lot of services to be done in order to establish the movement. And therefore he didn't want to establish a Bhajan and Nandi movement. Our movement is Ghost and Nandi. Bhajan and Nandi means one who does their own bhajan, and Ghost and Nandi means preacher. The Prabhupada's idea was to develop the preaching by implementing different programs and organizing the society in that direction. So he allowed that, apparent challenge to his initial request of 64 rounds to go along with that and to go to 16 rounds. Anything else? Anyone else would like to enter something that Prabhupada adjusted? It's the most obvious one. It's the one that he was criticized for.
Mother Scarlett has raised her hand. You want to go ahead, Mataji?
Why are you moving the cursor all over the page? Nobody knows. Okay. Then I'll say it. Prabhupada gave equal status to men and women within the society, which was not done before. In the Vedic culture, or even in the Indian society, women were not given residence in the temple. They could come and practice Krishna consciousness, but they would have to live outside. They were not allowed to live in the temple. The Prabhupada took it even farther. He established what is called the Brahmacharya ashram, which is a misnomer. The word Brahmacharya is nowhere to be found in any scripture. But he adopted that. That means single women who could live in the ashram and practice Krishna consciousness. And he gave them equal status along with their male brothers in doing services. Although he divided his services accordingly, he also gave them equal status. But he knew the Western culture would be seen as chauvinistic, and at the same time he could understand also that this would also enhance the movement by allowing the Westerners, both men and women, to practice Krishna consciousness together in the temple and even outside in the preaching arena. And Prabhupada was highly criticized. Not highly means regularly, he was criticized for doing that. He said, but because I did that, why are you moving the cursor all over the page? Just leave it in one place.
Maharaj, actually, there are messages on the chat that your voice is not clear a little bit. I mean,
my voice is not clear?
It's very low.
Let me try it. Okay, how's this? Is that better?
Oh, it's still the same, Maharaj.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to do.
I think that's fine, Maharaj. I would recommend devotees to use your headphones. So headphones will work if you're not able to hear clearly. That's fine, Maharaj. We can go ahead. That's fine.
Maybe I need a new microphone. And it's getting worn out. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So I was talking about Prabhupada giving equal status to women in the temples, allowing them to live in the temples, establishing a single woman's ashram, and performing devotional service side by side with the male brothers. That was never done before, and Prabhupada said because I did that, I was successful in spreading his capacity. He knew the Western mentality would not accept this kind of dichotomy, and therefore he allowed for that. And he also saw the benefit by empowering the ladies to also to serve and to preach, giving them a chance. And he based it on one verse, that in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, I believe it's verse number 28, talks about that Sudras, women, and others below the monastic system can also attain perfection in devotional service. And Prabhupada took that as an indication that giving a chance for women to actually come and execute their devotional service in an active way, rather than the history. They would have to stay at their personal home. They could come to the temple, they could worship in the temple, but they could not live in the temple nor perform, regular activities. Prabhupada said I was successful. So yeah, so then someone asked Prabhupada, how do you know what to adjust and what not to adjust? Prabhupada said there are two categories. One is a detail and one is a principle. For example, the principle is to chant Hare Krishna because that the detail is how many rounds the entire sets is descending. That's the detail. The principle is that only prashadam can be taken by the active participants. And what we offer is a detail. So certain things cannot be taken. These are just a few of the examples. So then again, the next question came is, how do you know a difference between a detail and a principle? And how do you know when to adjust or not to adjust? Because here Prabhupada gives a little expert religionists. So he uses the word expert, not that anyone could adjust religious principles. They have to be leaders like acharyas and spiritual masters. But again, what is the bottom line? The bottom line is that it requires intelligence to understand that. One has to be intelligent enough to see the situation and adjust or not adjust accordingly. For instance, we have the example and Prabhupada was told by one devotee who had to preach in Russia, and it was behind the Iron Curtain. There was nothing to eat there. Practically all the stores were out of food. The only things that were available was a little bit of milk and some sugar, not even sugar, just milk and meat. These were things were available. And so he was telling Prabhupada there's nothing to eat there. Prabhupada said, well, then eat meat, but preach. In other words, for the preaching mission, certain principles can be adjusted just for the sake of preaching. The rest should not be taken advantage of. That's an emergency situation only. So the Acharya can do that. One time Prabhupada was in Calcutta, and this was in the very beginning of the movement. He had brought his newly Western disciples with him. And so they were at this home of a very wealthy and very important person. And the man really liked the Prabhupada. And so a big feast was served to Prabhupada along with his followers, his disciples. But one of the items was onion pakora. They had made pakora with just onions with pakora batter in the outside. And the devotees noticed it. So they said to Srila Prabhupada, pakoras have onions in it. And Prabhupada said, no. So he didn't want to offend or insult the host, given the particular situation. So he made that adjustment right on the spot. Acharya can do that sometimes in order to facilitate devotional service, but that should not be taken advantage of. Not anybody can do it. Only one who's in the position of an Acharya or a spirit cannot. Okay, we go on. Ishtadev was one of the 12 great authorities in preaching this cult of devotional service, and therefore was certainly unable at that time to welcome and receive them physically, because he was neither at his home nor in a normal healthy condition. He was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind, and therefore he could utter sweet words with hearty expression, and all of them were well received. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by word. And he knew well how to utilize them in the proper way. Therefore, there was no difficulty for him to receive them for those physically unfit. So here we see how, again, not able to honor them by welcoming them, but his mind was sound, and therefore he welcomed them simply with sweet words. It was understood when a guest comes, you should offer, a place to sit, at least some water, and of course also sweet words. But he didn't have a place where we were able to offer even water, but he offered sweet words, and they were all satisfied. They were all satisfied because it was done in a very personal way, cordial way, you might say. In other words, it was done in Vedic culture. This idea of what is it? Respect to others is played out in different ways, and simply just like if one is living at home. Any guest that comes, either invited or uninvited, should be welcomed with some friendly words and some basic amenities such as water, place to sit. This is Vedic culture. The guest is considered to be on the same level as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one who lives in the Grihastha life. Okay, let's try without the microphone.
Maharaj, still some devotees cannot hear. So, Swaha Mataji is suggesting it would be better without microphone.
I'm trying it. How's that? Is that better?
Mm.
There's no microphone there.
Yes, I think
That's better, Guru Maharaj.
this is better.
Okay. All right. Yeah, the microphone, I think, is a little bit needs to be replaced. All right. So one's house as a grihasta is not seen as one's home. The home is a place for livelihood and for not livelihood, but for living, and a place to worship. Therefore, a guest comes, he should be honored in that way. It might seem to be an inconvenience sometimes if the guest is uninvited, but that is the culture. Because the guest is seen on the same level as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and should be respected as someone very special who comes to my home. But a devotee never thinks, one living in a family life never thinks that this is my home, this is my wife, this is my husband, these are my children. This is the disease of the material world. When people claim things to be their own. We have things to be used, but to say they are mine, in the sense that I own them, they're mine in the sense that I use them, and I also protect them, but nothing belongs to me because everything is given to me by the material energy through the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything belongs to him. He's the one that put everything together. And he's the one that created everything from the basics all the way up to the creative features of the adjustments of the material energy to formulate phones and cars and computers and other kinds of gadgets that we use. But a devotee wants to see, oh, these are mine. They are in my possession. I use them in my personal needs, and I also use them in order to serve others. The home is seen in that way, not only as a place to dwell, but also as a place to serve others, especially to honor, religious people, welcome them and hear from them. This is actually culture. Nowadays we have our little boxes and we just center our whole life around our family members. And maybe even the extended family members, the relatives and things. But that becomes somewhat griha mating. Griha mating means selfish. Because the tendency of the Grihastha ashram is to get very insular in the activities of my life and center everything around my own personal needs and personal profits. Therefore, the Buddha culture teaches that the home of a Grihastha is a place where they can welcome guests, serve guests, distribute prasadam, invite holy people to hear about Krishna, to hear about religious activities. It becomes a place for service. Okay, so these are some of the things we can consider. This is very interesting. And Bhishma Dev, his body is wrapped with arrows, and obviously he's feeling pain. But at the same time, he had the power to continue with his life as long as he wanted it. He could leave. So therefore, it would have been his own personal choice to leave the world, but he knew he had some service to perform. For being a great devotee of the Lord, he didn't want to leave before he performed that service. Welcoming all of these great personalities. Of course, Krishna was also one of the persons. All of Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, and many of the rishis, which were mentioned in the previous verses, Domya, Sukadeva, Swami, so many great personalities appeared there. Just to honor this great personality, although he was a warrior, he was considered to be an acharya. He teaches the principles Yes, sure, the way. So we're getting a little indication, like this chapter goes on. We'll see on the many outstanding qualities of Krishna, how he is completely free from bodily conception of life, fixed on Krishna, and fixed on preaching Krishna consciousness all the way up to his last breath. Srila Prabhupada was like that also. Prabhupada never wanted to just retire when he got sick. Although his body was quite debilitated, Prabhupada kept his preaching going. Even up to the last day, he was still giving instructions to his disciples and to others who were coming. So a devotee knows I'm not his body, and if the body breaks down, still I can still perform my devotional service, as he says here. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by the mind, or by word. So devotional service is not limited to a particular type of activity. It can be done by any one of these three or a combination of any of them. So he did it by words, and he pleased these great sages who have come. And we saw from the previous verses the list of all the great personalities who have come. They were great sages, and so he came from different places around the universe just to be with Krishna during his last few days. Okay, so I'll stop there. We can maybe open it up to questions. So we have two things here: acting according to time, place, and circumstance, and the proper etiquette of welcoming others. So you have two basic principles that we cover over here: the adjustment of religious principles in order to facilitate greater devotional service, or the culture of respect based on the activities of welcoming and receiving others.
Thank you, Maharaj, for explaining about this verse. Thank you so much. Thank you for also sharing about Srila Prabhupada, how compassionately he made adjustments for all of us according to the time and place. Thank you so much. So devotees, now is the time to ask your questions or share your reflections. So if you have any, please go ahead and raise your hands, or you can also add your questions or reflections in the chat. Also, it would be nice to see you also if you can turn on your videos. That would be nice.
Linda,
Yes,
no questions, you have to be ready with a question. That's the duty of the gentleman.
sorry, Maharaj, I couldn't hear actually.
You have to have, in order for things to keep moving, if nobody has questions right away, it's your duty to ask a question. That will inspire others to come forward.
Yeah, I have a question, Maharaj, actually, but I was just waiting for devotees. But if devotees are thinking, then I can go ahead with my question, Maharaj. So I was just wondering, it is mentioned in the purport that performing one's duty by physical words, mind, or physical work, mind, or words. So can you please explain, Maharaj, about performing one's duty by mind, or if there is any example of
meditation? If you can meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay.
simply, we have that example in the Nectar of Devotion, where one South Indian Brahmin who wanted to worship the Lord in a very gorgeous way, but he had absolutely nothing. He was completely poverty stricken. So he decided to do it in his mind. And so he established, he built the temple, he established the duty, and he began worship, all in the mind. And this went on for many, many weeks. And at one point, he wanted to offer some sweet rice, which he had cooked in his mind. So he cooked it, and then he was thinking, I think I just cooked it. Maybe it's too soon to offer it. It's probably, I want to see if it's cooled down enough. So he tested it by putting his finger, and his finger got burnt by the hot sweet rice. So he actually had a physical burn on his finger that actually was due to his meditation on his service. And the Lord noticed that. Immediately he turned to his sponsor, Lakshmi, and said, now I will bring him back to me. So, yeah, meditating, you can meditate if you can't do your service because of physical infirmaries or situations. And in the mind is also devotional to you. Devotional service is not simply dependent on the results, it's dependent on the devotion.
Thank you, Maharaj, for explaining that.
Yeah, you can read that story in the Nectar of Devotion.
Thank you, Maharaj. Mother Scarlett has raised her hand. Mataji, please go ahead. You're on mute, Mataji. Please unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Your Holiness. I have a little question for a newcomer. There are difficulty to understand things and tradition and principle, and like me, I try to learn, I try to take it in and do my best. But still, when I want to do the service and I come to the place that I should do my service there, then I see things happening there which take away my focus to what I really, really, really want to do, my service. But I'm just not focused because all the time I'm just conscious about others, who they are doing, who they are behaving, what to do.
Is it your service?
Yes.
Is it a prescribed service that you must do, or something that you voluntarily do?
For instance, I do garland. I do every Friday garland. But when I go there, I see the behavior and it takes away my focus. And instead of that, I think only about what I'm doing. I'm just thinking, how could she do that? How could he do that? How could he say like that? How could she do like that? You know what I mean? My focus is no, what they have to be example for me, how to do it.
That's your problem.
Okay.
Yeah, you just have, you don't worry about it. You can't change other people, you have to change yourself.
Okay, thank you.
They say if you want to change others, change yourself first, and then we'll see how others change. Be the ideal you want to be. Be respectful, be humble, You're enthusiastic to serve. You're willing to serve others if there's a situation where it's needed. Instead of looking at their faults or wherever, it's just this doesn't solve the problem and causes the mind to become discouraged.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else has any question, reflection to share?
Yes, Maharaj.
Go
Please
ahead.
accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, I have a question in regarding to receiving guests at home, and I think somebody was explaining that the literal word atithi means that somebody who arrives without atithi or without notification to your house, and they should be welcomed as representatives. But many times because you're always planning, you're doing something else, and so you get a call, or I get a call, we are coming, we need to come to your place because of, and although we say yes because of a social obligation, but internally we think, oh, why he should be coming at this time, I need to do this and that and those things. So how do we get away, or how do I get away from that mentality? Because I've heard this many times about receiving guests in the right mood, but also they're representatives of the Supreme Person as well. So
it's a very practical thing, though. You have to say that. Can you come at another time when you're right now it's I think you're over to receive you and Josie, you can speak like that. It's not that you refuse them coming, you just say this time I don't think it's a good time. I think that's fine. Just like when Srila Prabhupada was in the room, sometimes the devotees would come to see him. And Prabhupada would have his servant, assistant there, and they would screen the people who would come. And sometimes he would tell them, no, Prabhupada's not available now. We'll come back later, they come back and he's done. Well, that's a practical thing. You just go politely, explain that it's not a good time. If they insist on coming, then when they come, let them come in the door, give them a place to sit, and don't pay any attention. And just go about your activity. You get the message. If you're an unwanted guest, you just don't give them everything, and then leave. If you use an empty, that one, you just don't give them any attention. That's one way to send a message. Like I said, you don't feed them, because you didn't give them any freedom.
yes, Maharaj. No, thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. And also your point about that we should constantly, or at least I should constantly contemplate and think about and remind myself that everything that's given to me is my allocated quota. It doesn't belong to me, because that hope brings you into the right mood. Always. It's difficult because you try to see this is my things.
Yeah, the verse in the Bible tells that Vanasamaham Yamaham Mamenti. Moha, illusion, what is it? Aham Mamenti. This is I, this is mine. The two principles of material, connection. I am, this is. This is my life, this is my home, this is mine. the other one, I am, male, female, Indian. So the I principle is very strong. The mind principle is also strong, but it's less strong than the I principle. The thought I said the humans, they're more on the I principle. The animals are on the mind principle. They both are moha. Moha means illusion. Nothing belongs to us because we're not this body. And we claim everything in relationship to the body. So everything we claim in terms of I and mine is all based on the body. They were not the body. So there's a thing called mamata. Mamata means Krishna belongs to me. Or the reverse, I belong to Krishna. Mamata. So in this world, what can you be? You can use, and you can't be.
Thank you, Maharaj.
We also protect what we have. We don't want things to be lost and spoiled and stolen. So we protect it. But at the same time, so this protection system. So we can serve it. This is complete detachment. What is the meaning of wife, children, home, possessions? It's all based on the body. If there's no body, there's no meaning to it.
Mm.
We're not the body. Lord Brahma makes that statement in the 14th chapter of the third chapter. He offers prayers to Krishna. And towards the end of that chapter, he makes that statement. That everything in relationship to me is based on the body. Therefore, it's all illusion.
Mm.
The items are real, and they have a purpose, but they don't belong to me, nor am I my physical identity. We can be male in one life, next life will be female. Which one is real? Is it this life is real, or the last life is real? Or the next life is real? Maybe that's the real. Maybe we were a dog one time, and we were thinking, yeah, I'm a dog. But that's done. So we go through different bodies. Maya Rasa, that's your basin. That's your whole regard. G. Krishna Das. Hey, Vishma. Here you are. This is your identity. You belong to Krishna. G. Krishna Das. How is your identity? The material identities are temporary, and they facilitate activities, but they're not part of our identity, nor part of our possession. The only thing we have is devotional service.
Thank
You can still have a lot, but realize it's to be used in order for you to live, and in order for you to serve Krishna. And time takes things away. Time also brings things about. If we see the ephemeral nature of this material world, then we won't get so overly concerned about what happens. We keep our focus on the goal, which is Krishna, to go to our service, going back to Godhead. That's why in Grihastha life, Janasa Moham Yamameti is very strong. Therefore, one has to perform these activities of giving in charity, performing different pujas and rituals in order to detach oneself from one's material surroundings and material identity, especially giving in charity. And at the same time, also using one's home as a place for worship, and not a place simply to eat and sleep.
Thank you, Maharaj. Harish Prabhu, does that help?
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. This is very profound and basic, but we need to be constantly contemplate and act. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. We'll see you on the 23rd.
Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for that.
3 requests. You were the first one.
Thank you, Maharaj.
2 more came after that. And couldn't be through. Good evening.
Thank you, Maharaj. Please go.
Please accept my humble obeisances, dear Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, you were explaining in the beginning about how Srila Prabhupada, being an Acharya, started the Brahmacharini ashram for the single ladies who were flocking to the temples. That was very revolutionary and unprecedented. But that made the difference to half the world's population of women who got a chance to come to Krishna consciousness. But for this, Srila Prabhupada was and sometimes even is heavily criticized by the orthodox priests and Brahmins of in India, that he allowed Westerners to take Brahmin thread, he allowed all the girls to come to Krishna consciousness and so on. But the results are, as we can see, how successful the Krishna consciousness movement is because of the pure devotees adjusting. So how can we know when a pure devotee is making adjustments that to our minds may seem revolutionary or very innovative? Like another example is Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He was far ahead of his times and he was often misunderstood. So how we can, my question is this, how can we understand these things as they are happening? Because with our tiny little brains, we don't know who is pure devotee, what changes they're making, are they valid, legitimate and so on, or they're not, or they're deviations. So how can we know these things?
Well, if they're making changes, then they'll make it available. It's not like they hide it. It's public. If you're making changes, obviously, it's for free. Obviously, you can't change the process and how it's executed. Like Prabhupada established in our organized temples, Tulsi Puja. And just recently, I came across a situation where one temple wanted to eliminate Tulsi Puja in order to facilitate more time for teaching. So, but that you can't do that. Tulsi Puja is established by Prabhupada in the temple. So the temples have their morning program according to Prabhupada's alignment. If it was done outside, then you know, then we can adjust things accordingly. but not in the offering temple. So Tulsi is a pure devotee. And Prabhupada was also criticized for bringing Tulsi into the temple from some of his godbrothers. He said that the Malachis cannot worship Tulsi because Tulsi is a resident of the Vrindavan. Tulsi Puja is not a very, it's a very high form of worship. Although it appears to be just like a little plant, but that's our material vision. He is second in command in Vrindavan. He is vindicated. So I was giving that, here is an example of changing something that cannot be changed, or eliminating something that cannot be eliminated. So when someone does that, some authority does it, it has to be made public. And it has to be also sanctioned by the authority. So because they make it public. If they're not making it public, then there's the question of changing, because changing influences public activity. So if somebody does it, if somebody's doing it on the side personally, then it's not authorized. First, one can adjust their own schedule for their own activities within the confines of permissiveness within the realm of bhakti. Like I said, you have to know the difference between detail and principle. The principle is chant Hare Krishna, detail is how many rounds. Prabhupada established the principle into a detail also, 16 rounds. So that became the principle for those who are initiated, but those who are not initiated, when they want to qualify for the initiation, they have to chant Hare Krishna. And they may not necessarily chant 16 rounds at the beginning. We have to take only Krishna prasadam, so what food stuff we offer can be adjusted. Prabhupada also talked about it. When he was first came, he introduced the Indian cuisine, and one famous hero of the hippie generation, and that's Prabhupada in the early days, took issue with that the Westerners were not so much spoke to Indian food. I said, that's all right. You cook your Western food. And also to Krishna, as long as, it's got to be free from them. So I like the onions and meat, and meat derivatives. So some adjustments are there. If you go to Italy, they're always cooking Italian food. You go to India, they cook Indian food. That's a detail.
Guru Maharaj, it was hard to hear everything, so I'm going to listen to the recording again. No worries.
Thank you, Mataji. I thought Revati Mataji had raised her hand. Mataji, do you have a question?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Just a clarification. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the beautiful class. Just a clarification, Guru Maharaj, about receiving guests. Here, Bhishma Deva even though he was in his deathbed, he received the sages. Even though he was not able to receive them physically, he used his mind and words to receive. So just my clarification, like, even though we do service using our physical body, is it not like mind and words way more than like a physical body?
Well, they say if you working with your body doing physical work, your mind should also be focused on what you're doing or remembering Krishna. So they say the pure activity in devotional service includes body, mind, and mind. So if just the body is there and the mind is somewhere else, it's not a complete activity.
Mhm.
It's the consciousness Krishna comes to accept.
Okay. So whatever you're thinking in the mind, so your body will also like
Well, you're thinking how to do your service. Like you mindlessly go about doing things, then you make mistakes.
mm,
When you're inattentive, when something's bothering you and you're thinking about it, and you're cooking, and then all of a sudden, you knock something over, and you put the wrong spice in, cut your finger. So, yeah, eventually you have to pay attention.
yes, yes, got it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. I thought Renuka Mataji also had raised her hand. Mataji, did you have any question? You wanted to share anything?
Who was that?
Renuka Mataji had raised her hand before.
I don't see her anymore.
Oh, maybe I think she's left. Yes. So Mother Scarlett, do you have another question?
Yes, please. Another thing is about the temple. You say I should concentrate on myself. Okay. But when it comes to prasadam, I would very, very, very much love to buy with me, take it home to me, and pay for it, of course, and eat it. But they use the same milk and yogurt that they buy in the store. What to do with it? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry
Yeah.
that I have to mention.
I would say just don't eat them. Cook for yourself. Then.
I didn't hear. Just not to eat.
I would say don't accept that.
Okay. Thank you.
And just cook for yourself or accept foods that do not have milk products that are coming from commercial dairy.
Thank you.
I do that. Mhm.
Thank you, Mother Scarlett, for the question. So, are there any more reflections, questions from devotee side? Okay. Yes, Mother Scarlett.
I'm so sorry. It's not question. It's question, but it's not related to today. Can I ask that question?
Go ahead, Mataji.
Okay. I wonder how long is it required to have been a devotee and doing the service and chanting for a while and studying and read everything and take it to your heart, take it to your mind, for how long it should be before you can be initiated?
Well, it says you should aspire for initiation for at least 1 year, following the 4 level principles and chanting 16 rounds without breaking for a whole year. And you need to get a recommendation from the local authorities that give you approval for initiation. It depends on where you are in the world. There's different systems of evaluation. such as the UK system, is quite strict. You have a mentor and you have to report to that mentor. Also, in our system, we also have mentorship. Everyone who doesn't have a mentor has to sign up for a mentor. Either a local mentor or someone that has been given a position by our group here. And if you're not sure about that, just contact Radha Bhakti and she'll help you with that. So it's a system. So it's something that is done accordingly. There's rules, procedures you have to follow. But most important is 10, 16 rounds, follow the 4 religious principles. And take only Krishna Prasadam. And then the administrative side, I'm not so much inclined to describe all of it in detail because I don't think it's the time to do that. But you just connect with Radha Bhakti. No, actually, you connect with Radha Vinodini. Is she still here? She was here before. And see her Radha Vinodini or Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the husband of Srimati. Srimati is still here. For the men, it's Sri Krishna Chaitanya. For the ladies, it's Radha Vinodini. Connect with either one of them, and they'll set you up with a mentorship program.
Mataji, you're on mute.
Sorry, I want to ask you if you could please help me and send it in the WhatsApp so that I have the name and the address. Is it okay?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I will send you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I meant the devotees. I didn't meant you, Your Holiness. I'm so sorry. It's difficult for me. I don't remember name. It was meant to the devotee. I asked them. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Srimati Mataji.
Srimati, I have a question.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances of Rashtra Srila Prabhupada.
Look, I noticed that the verse before the one I did yesterday included at least 10 different personalities with descriptions. Was that class given in detail?
Sorry, Guru Maharaj, I couldn't understand what you were saying. Can you please repeat it?
The verses, I think it's 6 and 7 in the same chapter.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
In the purport is a long list of personalities, great souls, with a little bio next to each one.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah.
Who did that class? And
that is given by Her Grace Radha Vinodini Mataji.
and she explained each one of those?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah.
Or did she just read what's in the purport?
No, Guru Maharaj, she explained. She explained.
All in one class?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's good. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You go with Harrisburg, is it?
Tomorrow is Bhakti Sangha. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead. Yeah.
Tomorrow's class is with Bhakti Sangha Japa, and the verses will be Canto 6, Chapter 2, verses 9 and 10. And it will be 10.
It's at Charlotte? Is it Charlotte or Harrisburg?
It's Bhakti Sangha Charlotte Group, Guru Maharaj.
Bhakti Charlotte Group.
Okay, what's the verse?
6, 2, 9 and 10. Canto 6, Chapter 2, verses 9 and 10. And the class would be 20 minutes late. It will start at 7:20 a.m. EST. Sridevi Mataji, did you want to share anything? You have raised hand.
I just want to very humbly, if I may, please request Guru Maharaj what changes have happened to his computer or the internet at that end, because it's really, really hard to understand what Guru Maharaj is saying. So I don't know if people have made some changes at that end, and that's how it has become very blurry and very hard to hear. And I'm concerned because this will just, even now the Charlotte devotees will have this difficulty, Harrisburg devotees will have this difficulty. So I'm a little concerned about that. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, yes, Mataji, actually, it was a little hard to hear today. Maybe Maharaj has gone to check or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I just got a new computer.
Oh. Okay.
Maybe put the old one back again, Guru Maharaj. That's all right.
I'm thinking of using the old computer then for the Zoom calls. And
Mhm.
can you hear that?
Guru Maharaj, it's very hard to hear, Guru Maharaj. Yesterday was little fine, but today it was so much. Your voice was not clear at all, Guru Maharaj. I don't know.
I use my own computer starting tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, please.
All these are goodies.
Can you kindly ask anybody to check your computer, new one, Guru Maharaj, the audio settings, if possible?
Yeah, I do that too. Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj,
Hare
for
Krishna,
your
Maharaj.
time and association. Thank you so much, devotees, for joining us today. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.